one of Purity's founders and an English tea drinker, I heard mixed messages whether or not coffee was good for health. Some experts were critical of caffeine, while others talked about the incredible health benefits of coffee. My wife Amber, who had begun experiencing low energy and other issues, was more than a little reluctant to give up her coffee without some serious evidence, even though I was convinced it wasn't helping. I began to inquire into the link between coffee and health. I took the question to experts at Vanderbilt University, the Federal University of Brazil in Rio, and Harvard Medical School. They all supported my wife's position on the matter. Drinking coffee should indeed be good for health. Not only is coffee one of the greatest sources of antioxidants in the American diet, but it also helps prevent liver disease, type 2 diabetes, 6 forms of cancer, and heart disease.
Welcome, everyone, to another episode of Sovereign Sisters Podcast. I'm your host, Angela Atkins, and tonight, let's chat. It's one of those things that I like to have interaction with the audience, and I do hope that you're here to interact with me and with the topics, because it's going to be a free-for-all, whatever you want to talk about. I do have things that I prepared, let's say, but it's not, something that I can't stop and talk to what you want to talk about. I have some things I want to talk about what happened this past week with Trump's executive orders, talk about our healthcare system and other things that are on my mind. But literally, I want to hear from you because I feel like at this part of our time, we need to start speaking out and saying what we want. We can't sit back and just wait for somebody else to do something or somebody else to say something, or just wait until it's all over, so to speak. I mean, there are plenty of people who are just waiting to see what happens next. I don't want to wait anymore, and I'll tell you why. Because I have spent the last 5 years yelling and screaming about what's going on. I'm like, is anybody listening? I have had times where I've expressed myself, I thought, so eloquently in meetings, and I come away to find that nobody really wants to do anything because of whatever. So let's get down to talking about what's on your mind, and I'll tell you what's on mine, and hopefully together we'll have a great conversation. Just post your comments in the chat. I do want to let you know that there is a slight delay. So if your comment comes after I've changed topics, I'll gladly go back and we'll discuss it. I just want you to know that it's not that I'm ignoring you. It's just that there is a time lag with the technology. So let's start out with what has been happening this past week. So as of today, there have been 55 executive orders signed by Donald Trump. Now, this exceeds the 26 that Joe Biden did on his first day in office. And yes, that is true. Somebody just said, again, I told you I'd go back. Why do people not want to do things? Complacency. They just want to be in their own, keep the status quo, even if it's not what that's really good for them. They don't want to rock the boat for fear that it might affect them, that they may have to do something, or they may have to change the way they do something. And that's just unfortunate, because complacency is how we got here, by not speaking up and not saying what we wanted and not listening to our inner selves, not listening to what we have been, our gut instincts. We've talked about that before. Our gut really tells us, it's like our conscience is coming to us and saying, this is what you need to do. Instead, I think people either turn off their reactions to their gut and say, oh, yeah, I can't deal with that. Or they're just not aware enough that their gut feeling really, truly is their conscience telling them what they need to do. So for that reason, I want to bring forward some of the ideas that I have. One about, we're going to start with the executive orders because there's so many of them. I am not going to touch all of them. But what I did do is I kind of put them together, because it seems to me one executive order doesn't seem to be enough. The topic seems to be broad enough, but then if you don't go down to every level, somebody will say, well, you didn't apply to me, so I'm not following that. So I think that's why we have so many executive orders, because we have to go through them to the granular level. Some are granular, some are not. Let's dig in and see what we find. So what I did is I went and I searched, and it's all out on whitehouse.gov underneath the presidential actions. They are listed and posted there within days of being signed. So not all of them are there. I've done some additional research to find ones that were done as of today. So we'll go through all of them that I've gone through. I'm not going through all 55, as I said, but I want to piece them together to see if you see the same thing that I do. And as I said, jump in anytime with your reaction, with your comment, or a subject that you want to talk about. Just give me a moment, because again, it's going to take about 7 seconds for it to register here on my board. So the first one, yes, I did do my homework, because if I didn't write them down, I would never remember what these executive orders are. So the first one signed was the initial rescissions of harmful executive orders and actions. It's basically Trump reversing all of the Biden policies that no longer is not conducive to a positive American society. So basically, he took out diversity, equity, and inclusion, climate and environmental policies, and immigration policies, which are all things that needed to be addressed. But one thing I'm concerned about is when they said, Trump said the Office of Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion is going away, but they put all those people on paid leave. I'm sorry, cut the cord, let them go. We don't need them. Sorry. Your job is really not one that the government ever needed and should never have been initiated. So in my opinion, just cut the cord, let them go. But along that same line, there are several other ones that seem to fit into the same category. As I said, they get to be granular, and some of them address different sides of the issue. So the next one I put in is the 20th EO he signed, ending illegal discrimination and restoring merit-based opportunity. Now, that should have been a no-brainer a long time ago. I mean, there may have been a need sometime in the past for affirmative action, but I think that time has long passed, because now we went from affirmative action to DEI to even worse kinds of policies, till we have such a woke agenda that no one can get anything done. And when you talk about government work, most people think of inefficiency. And shouldn't be the way we think of our government workers. But yet, all of these things have contributed towards that. So ending this practice of affirmative action, DEI, and all these other policies, and going back to merit-based, you'll get the people who are able to do the job and do it well. And I think that's a great one. So again, I fold this next one under this other, rescission of harmful orders. The 21st one they signed is defending women from gender ideology, extremism, and restoring biological truth to federal government. Well, I think we need to restore biological truth everywhere, not just federal government, but yet that's Trump's bailiwick as the executive officer. So we're doing away with any sex-based policies, which is great, because the distinctions need to be biological, not ideological. And I think that's the real key here. We are focusing on the real biology, the God-given biology of the two genders, male and female, and the rest of it, fantasy. Seriously, the rest of it was fantasy, or based on some practice that is not in keeping with our Christian society. I truly think that's what it is. And so we have another comment about rewarding bad people with paid leave. Yes, that's exactly what I feel about the DEI office. Why paid leave? I mean, many people get, here's your notice, you're out the door. And maybe you do get 2 weeks pay or something, but these people are on paid leave until the next action. So who knows when that will be? And again, my opinion is cut the cord, let them go. So the next one, again, all tied into these harmful executive orders, is eliminating diversity, equity, inclusion programs in the military. As I said, if you didn't specify it, because it says in the federal government, but it didn't say in the military. They say, well, it didn't apply to the military. So he has to be specific. And again, more granular. So in the military, again, they're going to go the same way with merit-based principles, but it removes all of the training and all of the initiatives that push the DEI policies forward. And I think that's great. And I think that will help with recruitment. And I think it will also foster a better atmosphere within the ranks of the soldiers. So the next one, again, still under this DEI and all, again, we're getting more and more closed in. The 40th EO that he signed was prohibiting critical race theory in federal training. Another woke agenda. It really, it's just so divisive the way these things are written. And we need to get rid of these ideologies in the federal government, and hopefully that will roll over to industry, because the way that people accept things that are federally stated, that usually things follow in industry. So we can only hope that all of industry will get rid of their DEI and all the other divisive policies that they have. Then the 24th EO that he signed was banning transgender individuals from military service. Now, I frankly understand that there are people with gender dysphoria, and that is a shame. And I really think we need to go back to treating these people as a mental illness. And I don't mean that in a derogatory way. I mean that in a way of supporting them with mental health. Because we have been bombarded with a lot of crap. Let's just put it that way. These, and I'm going to use the term Satanists for lack of a better term, who have gods who are transgendered, like Baphomet. They have imposed these things into society as if it's normal. And again, we're primarily a Christian society. And if you're not Christian, I hope at least you understand the basics of biology as humans, that there are male and female. So these transgender, I don't even know how to say it, how they become so uncertain of who they are seems to be something they need to deal with on a mental health level. And so removing them from the military also helps with the cohesiveness of the military. Remember, these men and women are in there fighting, risking their lives. They have to be certain that the person next to them is willing to risk their lives to save theirs the way they are risking their lives to save them also. So you can't have people who are unable to think clearly. When you're, as they used to say, in the foxhole, you want to be somebody that your brothers and sisters with, that care enough about you and that are not wrapped up in some mental head game that you can't even tell what gender you are. I know people are not going to like what I have to say, but that's okay. I do me, you do you, and we can agree to disagree, because that's what it's about. We're allowed to speak our own truth, and that's what I'm doing tonight. And I hope you speak your truth too. So the next thing that we have is the 26th EO that he signed, rescinding Executive Order 11246. Now, this revokes the 1965 order that prohibited federal contractors from not hiring on the base of race, religion, color, creed, sexual orientation, etc. I think they included gender identity in that too. So this is one that it's part of the total, yeah, I agree, bring it on. So this is part of the total picture of getting away from catering to minority interests. I'm not saying minorities, minority interests. I think we need to stop looking at us and them and look at we, all of us, we the people. Are you the best you can be? Then you should apply for that job. Are you the best that comes in school? Then you should be at the top of the class. It shouldn't be about, I'm this color, I'm this race, I'm this gender. It doesn't make any difference. It only matters if you can do the job, be the best that you can be a contributing citizen, and not, not break down the norms that are there already. This is just it's a radical idea, but I love going back to what really should be what we are. So the next one, again, still under this DEI head, it's top level thing. I look at this one. It's the 48th EO that he signed, prohibiting federal recognition of gender identity policies. So again, we're going back to the federal agencies can't adopt policies based on this gender identity. Again, gender identity. You are a gender. You're not an identity. You are male or female, but it has to be your biological sex. So I tell you, when I get a form that you have to fill out, sometimes you have to fill out forms and it asks you with gender online. It'll say male, female. Sometimes it'll say other. And I'm like, other what? I don't know what the other is. And, I don't even want to deal with that company or whoever it is that I'm filling out the form with, because I'm like, you're ridiculous. There are two, male and female. Let it go. Move on. So, and the last one under this top category that I was told you I compiled them into is the 55th, the last one you signed today, mandating federal employee accountability. So this means there's a stricter accountability for federal employees rather than based on some ideology or some affirmative action or something else. It's performance based, what it should always have been. That will bring the government workforce up to the level that we think of industry, where you have the better working people doing the better job, rather than thinking of the government worker as lazy and just, riding through in the government's teeth, so to speak. No, this is where we need to go. We need accountability so people perform at their best. All right. And I hope at any point, jump right in, let me know what you think. So the second grouping that I have here is his second EO, restoring freedom of speech and ending federal censorship. Now, this is a big one because remember, we have the First Amendment, freedom of speech. Dear God, how did we lose it? Because federal agency colluded with mainstream media, with social media, and with any outlet they could to bring on their narratives that they wanted the public to basically take in this nonsense and kind of attribute it to being the real thing, because it kept coming at you 24/7. So I have one here. I have a question here. Said, you mean no more pass fail for federal employees? What a novel idea. So I gather in the reviews, they don't get graded anymore on everything. I mean, when I was in corporate world, you actually got a rating. You were at a certain level. And, some company use numbers like 1 through 5 or, a scale of 100 or whatever it is. But when you're rated pass fail, it sounds like you're auditing a course. And if you're auditing your job, why are you there? You really need to be invested in what you do. And if you don't like your job, go find another one, as they say. And I know everybody's going to say, well, it's not that easy in this economy. Well, then do the best you can do. That will prove to be more of an incentive for you, because as you get better, people around you get better, or they rely on you to be their help, meaning, I don't mean doing their work for him, but being a support to help them be better. I think that's really a good thing. So the one thing about this restoring freedom of speech, if you recall in previous podcasts, I talked about the Smith Modernization Act that allowed corporations and media and everyone out there putting the spin out there, it's okay to propagandize American citizens. Well, this is what's been happening over the last, since 2012. We have been propagandized to the point where we don't know the truth. And it is time for truth. It is time for accountability. And I think we should no longer be able to suppress truth. We should no longer be able to suppress different viewpoints. I mean, there are people I know that won't like my viewpoint, and that's okay, because that's their right. I don't say you can't believe what you believe, believe whatever you want to believe, but have the facts to back them up, because that always makes it more realistic rather than some, pie in the sky. I just think it should be this way. I think it needs to be truth. And I think it needs to be based on our Constitution, our Bill of Rights, our Declaration of Independence. That's what made America who we are. We followed those rules. We followed those articles that were written down for us so many years ago. And now, how have we gotten so far away? So this also goes with the third executive order, ending the weaponization of federal government. Well, again, didn't the first one kind of say that? But now we have to get more specific, because now it says it prevents the misuse of federal agencies for political purposes. There you go. So you can't play politics with the truth, is basically what it is. We need to be impartial. We need to have integrity, knowing that what we hear is the truth and nothing but the truth that come from our federal government. Then one more written, the 39th EO, requiring transparency in federal agency communication with media. Again, still along the same lines. Now we have to make sure that any communication between the federal government and mass media is documented publicly, which it should have been from the beginning, to know this came from the government. We're told to tell you this because the government said for us to tell you that. Again, this is why we need transparency. We need the government agencies to say that the media outlets are telling you what we're telling them, not that the media outlet is just, doing their own thing. Yep, stop the media government collusion. I totally agree. So now we're going on to the next set. This is about putting America first, which I love the concept. America should be first for Americans. That's the only thing. The same way every other country should be first for their own country. It's not just America above all. It's every country should be invested in their own country and in their own people. So this one is putting America first in international environmental agreements. So as you know, Trump took us out of the Paris Agreement when he was in the office the first time. Well, he's done it again. Thank goodness, because it's just nonsense. This includes also the financial commitments we have with the United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change. Oh my God, what a freaking hoax. If I hear climate change from people and they sincerely mean it, I just say, of course. Climate's being changed all the time by all the geoengineering and everything they do with the chemtrails and the poisons in the air. That's climate change. It's not natural. It is being manufactured and we're suffering for it. That's what's got to stop. So I know that people listening here probably do know that climate change is a hoax, but for anybody who thinks it's real, really go out and start watching stuff like a geoengineeringwatch.org. It'll help clear up your mind. Go to the list of patents where it tells you how they have manipulated the weather. And there's also a site where if you're going to manipulate the weather, you have to enter it here. The government knows all of this. It's always been out there. It's just that people won't go and look for it. They need somebody to tell them. So let me tell you, it's time to do your own research. It's time for you to go out and look and see. When you look up in the sky, if you see those lines in the sky, the white vapor, it's not condensation. It's chemtrails. They're spraying. This needs to be put to a stop. So under this one, for more environmental stuff, his 44th EO was redirecting federal research funding away from climate change. I just love the title anyway, away from climate change. So this is shifting the priorities of how we're funding things. Instead of having all this research and climate change and everything else, we're going to focus in on other areas. Now, this is where it gets a little dicey for me. He wants to change the focus to fields such as AI, biotechnology, and space exploration. Okay, here's another one. about the chemtrails. Contrails will go away after a minute or two. Chemtrails form ugly looking clouds. That's absolute truth. Absolutely. So the one that I was just on about taking out the funding from climate change, it started out as a good concept, but then it veers off into this next round of what I consider potential hoaxes. I mean, are they going to perpetrate some sort of things with space exploration again? We haven't even heard about the truth about the moon landing. So I don't know that I want to go through all this other stuff where we spend billions of dollars on things like space exploration only to find out 25 years from now that it's always nonsense. So I also am concerned about the AI, and we'll go back into that a little later because there are other EOs about the AI, and yeah, not really happy about it. So the next one is the 52nd EO. He's repealing the green energy mandates for federal buildings. Okay, I get that. And again, hopefully technology and industry and other areas will follow suit, that green mandates aren't what they're cut out to be. You can't use, electric cars, so to speak, without some sort of underlying mechanism that fuels them. So when you plug them in, where's your energy coming from? Yeah, it's coming from the wall out, which is run by coal, natural gas, something else. So don't be confused by it. Really understand what is the underlying technology or the underlying theory before you go running down some avenue thinking, oh, well, green energy, we've got to be green. No, green, the grass should be green. So the next one is really a great one. I love withdrawing the United States from the World Health Organization. This should have happened a long time ago. These people, they're an unelected body who basically ran the pandemic of 2020. And they're the ones that pushed the mandates that rippled through society and really caused a lot of detrimental harm for everyone worldwide. So yeah, these folks got to go. There's no need for the WHO. I call them either the World Hoax Organization or the World Homicide Organization, because that's what the WHO stands for me. So the next one is holding former government officials accountable for election interference and improper disclosure of sensitive government information. That's great. I think we need to hold people accountable. There hasn't been a lot of accountability so far. So we need to have people who are in official capacities, whether they're elected or just part of a government structure. If they either disclosed unauthorized information or they actively interfered with the elections, they need to be brought up on charges, because this is the time. This is the thing that bothers me about this EO. It says if they do this, could lead to legal actions. No, truth and justice must be met. It's if we don't get the full details on the election malfeasance of not only 2020, but the midterms, even 2018 and 2022, this is a total failure, in my opinion. It's not, you might get some, justice for it. It's, we must get justice for it, because this is what the people wanted. The people, elected certain individuals, and it was taken from us. So we need the truth, and we need people held accountable for it. So the next one is clarifying the military's role in protecting the territorial integrity of the United States. So this has a whole bunch of them that I found go along with them as we get a little more granular. And this is great because now the military is going to be involved in domestic affairs. That's a little different because military wasn't supposed to operate on domestic soil. But this is for border security. And will help with the control of our borders, obviously. Because you have to realize a nation isn't a nation without borders. And if you can't get the illegals out, and they are illegal by the nature of entering the country without going through legal processes, they are illegal. That is the definition. Again, words have meaning, and this is exactly what that means. send them home. And if they want to apply, go through the legal process, be vetted. And if you're allowed, come on in. This is the way it's been done for decades. So there's no reason why it shouldn't continue to be done. Now, this goes along with the 11th EO, realigning the United States Refugee Admissions Program. So it seems like it's got a little wonky over time, whatever a security interest was, allowing people to become refugees in the United States. So I think we need to, and there is no clarification as to what that means, but we do need that clarification. So it's not just any person who says, I need asylum, that you actually have to have a reason that is strong enough that we give refugee status, and yet you still should be fully vetted. It shouldn't be just an automatic because of some circumstance. Now, going along with that is also the 12th EO, protecting the meaning and value of American citizenship. This is very important, I think, because it's going to end the birthright citizenship for illegal aliens who are in the United States and have a child, and that child is given automatic American citizenship. That's the slippery slope they try to do to bring, even just if it's the child that gets the citizenship, it's just not the proper way. Go home, have your child, apply to come to the United States in the proper fashion and become a legal immigrant. As I said, millions have done it for decades. There's no reason why to stop that. Really need to do it. So I know it's been challenged constitutionally before, but I really think it needs to be put into place that there's no more, if you're born here, you're automatically a citizen. So again, under this one, the same, borders policies, he's got the 13th EO, securing our borders. Now, he's declared a national emergency at the southern border. That's great, because now we have the military to help secure our borders. And I think any governor or mayor or any official who wants to defy this order should be arrested for treason. That is an absolute treasonous act to go against harboring illegals in the United States. That goes without saying. Then the next one is declaring a national emergency at the southern border. So as I said, he's deployed the military to the southern border, and it's to help with, as in the EO he states, to help with the crisis due to illegal immigration and drug trafficking. And I think that's the tip of the iceberg. I think it's also with the child trafficking and the sex trafficking. That needs to stop. We need to put an end to that. And I know that President Trump has been very, very adamant about ending child and sex trafficking. And so I hope this comes to fruition. So the next one under that particular border, maintaining our borders is what I'm trying to say, is that we reinforce merit-based immigration policies. This one is confusing for me because we've just said you have to come in legally and you have to do it through the channels that we have set up. Well, this one says merit-based immigration to bring in highly skilled immigration into the United States. So is he allowing for immigration, but not specifically stating they need to follow the rules that are already set in place? Again, this could be extrapolated that industry gets to, get these highly skilled workers and kind of slip them through without the benefit of legal immigration policies. I think this one needs to be clarified further, and I hope it is, because I know there was all talk about the H-1B visas and all that. We need to not skip steps, because that's what takes us down slippery slopes, skipping steps. We need to do everyone who is not a legal person in the United States to go through the same process. And then under this one also, his 54th EO, enhancing border wall construction oversight. So he's ordering audits and oversights on the effectiveness of the border wall projects. Now, excuse me, but this should have been done under Trump's first term. And in my opinion, I think it wasn't completed intentionally. I really do. I think we were put through the last 5 years to prove a point. I know you've heard it over and over again. You can't just tell people, you've got to show them. Well, I'm still not sure that after 5 years of showing people that they truly understand the concept of American sovereignty. So it's a good start. We need to keep going, and we need to focus on being a country of American citizens. Then the next one goes into the AI. This is where I get a little sticky. Yep, a lot of people are still asleep. And I don't even like using that term. I literally, my feelings, because words have meaning. My feelings are going to using the word, people are still ignorant. They just do not know. And maybe there is willful ignorance in there, but I don't think they're just asleep. They've heard enough, or they've experienced enough to want to start saying things, to want to start speaking out. And yes, more and more people are speaking out, but it's not the general population. They're still struggling with the changes. And I don't know why. The only thing I can think of is that they're still wrapped up in the day to day. They've got so many things going on, they can't focus on what's really important. Holding our country together, keeping us safe, keeping our American society as it was meant to be, as written in the documents that I mentioned, the Constitution, the Bill of Rights, the Declaration of Independence. Those things were meant to build a strong American society, and we've let it falter. So we need to get back on that. So this 16th EO is removing barriers to American leadership in artificial intelligence. Okay. So basically, it revokes the previous policies that hindered the development of AI. And it wants to promote US to being one of the leaders in AI technologies. And I think that really has been spurred on because China came out with DeepSeek, and it seems to blow away a lot of the American AI, such as ChatGPT or Meta's AI, which are basically woke pieces of software. Can't help it. But this is where it gets sticky. AI, as I said before, is just a computer programming. And since the beginning of the digital age, it's only as good as the data it's trained on. So it's garbage in, garbage out. If you don't put in good data, you don't get out good data. So the federal government can say all it wants about AI, but it really depends who's training the models. So why are we going to these tech oligarchs and having them, jump into public health? For me, that's a total failure right there. We already had that. Do you remember Bill Gates, billionaire who wanted to get into the healthcare world? Well, total fail. So I really think this is not the federal government's business. Federal government needs to get out of public health care. It is not their job. It's not part of the Constitution. There's no federal mandate for it. I don't know why we should trust billionaires to define our health policies and tell us how it's going to be distributed to us. No, I'm sorry. This is crazy. So I was looking at it. It's Larry Ellison, chairman of Oracle. And I know you've probably already seen his lovely video. I won't play it again because I can't stand to listen to it one more time, where he goes on to say, they're going to develop these AI models that will be able to take the results of a blood test, and within 48 hours will develop a personalized vaccine for cancer. Oh, dear God. This is just crazy. First off, there's no such thing. I'm sorry, let me back up. These people are using mRNA. mRNA is synthetic. It is not what our bodies make, which is messenger mRNA. It is modified mRNA, which is synthetic. And you don't create a vaccine based on a blood test for cancer. And if you haven't listened to Dr. Jane Ruby, Go find her. She has done great explanations of how cancer is diagnosed, and if it's already in your blood, it's probably too late. She does a great explanation, does a lot of teaching on how mRNA and all this stuff reacts in our body. It boggles my mind that people are looking at these people who are dropouts, basically. I mean, Larry Ellison was a college dropout. He has no degree or no backing in healthcare, yet he wants to use mRNA for a vaccine for cancer. Sorry, not happening. And then there's Sam Altman, who's the CEO of OpenAI. He's already collaborating with Moderna to leverage this mRNA technology. Sorry, it's not what I think we should go. First off, OpenAI in its name alone is a lie. It is not open. They closed it down. There's no open source coding for there. They wanted to make their billions off of it. So sorry, not having it. You from the outset have told me that you're a fraud, so I'm not buying into your bullshit. Here, I think I've heard this over and over again. Trump is putting these people out in the spotlight so you can see just how bad they are. Well, is this another psyop? A psychological operation? They're placing these tech CEOs in our faces, waiting for us to react. So when is the American citizen going to stand up for themselves? I hear so many people going, yay, Trump, no matter what he says, good, bad, or indifferent. Yay, Trump, we're going to do this. So here he is focusing on this AI technology where he's got, Ellison and Altman talking about, AI mRNA shots. What? I'm sorry. I truly am. I am so tired of the psyops. That is where I am. Stop this. Stop this now. We need to stop all of this. I'm going to speak directly to President Trump. I know he doesn't watch my podcast, but maybe somebody does and can say, stop the psyops. It's time for truth and justice. We don't need any more of this. I say it's time for shock and awe. Come out with the truth, what these shots do, how it affects people, what it has done long term, short term, all the things in between. Do not keep perpetrating these psyops. People who don't understand are never going to understand. You need to stop and start with the shock and awe. Tell the truth, the whole truth, the good, the bad, the ugly, and let people figure it out. Because I know I've heard over and over again, some people can't accept this. It will, break their brain. They'll lose their mind. Well, some people lost their lives because of all the lies that were out there. So I don't care if some people get upset. I don't care if some people have a temporary insanity because, oh my God, the truth is too much for me to take. Maybe it'll help snap them out of that, whatever they're in. They're in some sort of daze. For God's sakes, wake up and smell the coffee. Literally. When you smell the coffee, it gives you a boost usually. So get the truth. Get the truth. Let it wake you up because this other stuff is just nonsense. I do not want to go through any more psyops. I do not want to hear any more tales of this is Trump doing this and this is Trump doing that. Stop it. Tell the truth. Get the justice. If people have committed crimes, they need to take account of that. We need to arrest them, prosecute them, and found guilty, they need to be put in jail or executed, whatever is called for. I no longer have patience for this nonsense of, we got to ease this into people. It's been 5 years of this nonsense, and it's been almost 10 years with Trump coming on the scene and people going through this TDS nonsense. And it's all because the media propagandized the American population. And there was only a small percentage that weren't propagandized. And they're the people who've been screaming for the last 5 years, pay attention. Things are happening. You need to know the truth. Well, it's time for the truth. It's time for Trump to step out and tell the truth. So much for my rant. So here's the next one, EO17. declassification of records concerning the assassinations of President John F. Kennedy, Senator Robert F. Kennedy, and Dr. Martin Luther King. Well, fantastic. It's time, because I look forward to getting the whole truth. That's right, truth and justice. No matter how dark, no matter how much it impacts the government agencies or the opinion of the people about the government, it doesn't matter. We need this truth. We, the people, deserve to know the truth. And I'm not talking about partial truth. I'm not talking about, whatever agency, and we know what agency it was who perpetrated this nonsense. If they have some sort of redacted official report, I don't want that. I want the unredacted, whole, ugly truth out in the public, where we, the people, can see exactly what happened to these prominent leaders. Now, I know I worked in the corporate side. I had classification. I've had up to a top secret SCI classified access. And I know the documents are generally classified at the most at top secret for 25 years, unless they're national security concerns. Yeah. Well, the American public deserve to know what happened to these men. And the only reason to keep them classified is to protect the perpetrators of these crimes. Time for truth and justice. Totally correct. Time for truth and justice. So I'm going to move on to EO, the 27th EO that he wrote. Reinstating military personnel discharged over COVID-19 vaccine refusal. Well, this is going to reinstate 8,000 U.S. military men and women who refused to get the COVID-19 vaccine, as it's called. It's the name is incorrect. This COVID-19 injection. And they'll get back their previous ranks and their full back pay and benefits. And I get it, that sounds like a great thing, but these are people who managed to survive. These are people who fought against the onslaught of these military actions. But that does nothing for those who obeyed this illegal order and lost their lives. There's no restitution for them. None. Whatever. So we have a statement here. Hold on a second. This is from the new Treasury Secretary Scott Bennett. I'm committed to eliminating income taxes, replacing them with fair consumption tax, and adopting a gold-backed currency. We'll erase debt, restore financial privacy, and I think it probably goes on, but it's not on my screen. So I think it's great. And we've heard Trump all along. He started out with no tax on tips, and no tax on something else, and no tax on this. And I'm like, why are you warming up to this? Just no tax. Yes, a flat tax would be fine, because yes, we do need to support the government in some fashion, but we don't need to be taxed out of sight, where we're taxed on everything we're taxed on the money we earn, the money we spend, the money we invest, the money that we put in our retirement. We're taxed and taxed and taxed. So take all those taxes away, have one tax, and the rest of the statement is to unlock new technologies for a prosperous future. The golden age starts now. And I hope that's true, because this warming up of people, I mean, why do you have to warm people up to no tax? Wouldn't you be jumping for joy? But I think what the issue is, they don't understand tariffs. Trump has said he's going to impose tariffs, and people are so afraid. Oh my God, everything's going to cost so much more. We're not going to be able to do this, that, and the other. You're missing the picture. If you would understand history, you would know that tariffs were the way that we funded the government in the past. And now to do it again, it will relieve the average citizen of all the taxes, and literally, you will have more money. It's not a figurative statement. You won't have to be taxed on all the income that you make. Right now, the average person probably is taxed 25 to 30%. And I'm saying average. I know it's some lower, some higher. So if you're not paying tax on the income you're earning, you're going to get a 25 to 30% raise. How is that something you can't deal with? Why bring this out in dribs and drabs. That makes no sense to me. So again, President Trump, stop with the warm-ups. Just tell us, come out, speak the truth. We're ready for it. And if you're not ready for it, maybe you have to do a little research to find out what history tells us, what the actual laws are, what the actual Constitution says, and then maybe you understand that in order to be a great American society, we need to bring this golden age in that he wants to bring in, because it will make us much more prosperous. It's not, the tariffs are not going to cost us more, because industries that have taken their jobs and taken their workers overseas will bring them back home. And this is what he did the first time around. He brought industry back to the United States, and we were prosperous, and prices will go down. Again, it's not a difficult concept. You just need to think it through. And if you don't understand it, do your research. So thank you for that. I'm really glad to hear that. So I just have a couple more before we round it out. The 43rd EO is strengthening religious freedom protections. So this had me going, what? Expanding federal support for individuals and organizations asserting religious liberty claims under existing laws? Isn't religious freedom part of the First Amendment? Go read your Bill of Rights. Come on. Do we have to keep saying it? You do have freedom of speech. You do have freedom of expression. You do have freedom of religion. You have freedom of peaceful assembly. All these things are our rights. Why did we allow them to take them away? Because we were frightened? There was more of us than there is of them. If we would have stood together and said, nope, we already have this right, can't take it away from us, that would have ended things much sooner. But people were fear-mongered into believing something bad would happen to them. That's a shame. That's a crying shame that people bought into the fear-mongering. Stand up. Put on your big girl and boy pants. It's time to be a proud American and say no to tyranny and say yes to American sovereignty. That's what we need to do. So I'm going to round it out. That's where I'm going. So here's one more thing. Everything Trump is doing is re-educating everyday Americans what the Constitution says. So this is where I'm headed. EO 52, ensuring federal agencies respect the Constitution in rulemaking. So he's mandating constitutional reviews for all new federal rules and regulations. So finally, a president who respects the Constitution. He's tried to do everything by the book. I totally get it. Some things went awry. I'm not saying everything was bad. You know, if Trump did something wrong, hopefully he'll rectify it. The problem I see is lack of transparency. Where's the truth? It is time for truth and justice. There's no other way to say it. You need to get out there and make certain whoever needs to hear it. I mean, your local politicians, your state, federal, everybody, start screaming at them. We need to follow the Constitution. We have our rights. We're never going to give them up again. No, you can't put us in another lockdown because we are free citizens. No, you can't use public health as a way to make us feel like we're going to be, locked in our homes and unable to do the things we do, because public health has been a fraud. It's been a total fraud. And on that, you're going to have to do your own research. There are so many people out there talking about the fraud of public health. I've touched on it before, but I want to really focus on sovereignty. And in order to be sovereign, you have to have your bodily autonomy. Do not allow anyone to give you anything or put anything in your body that you really don't want. Now, if you choose after doing your own research, and that's the important part, don't just blindly accept what somebody says. If you want something after you've done your research and you know all the ins and outs, you know the good and the bad, what the harms and the effects are, then you go ahead and take whatever you want. There's no holding you back. I'm all for that because that's your right. but I have my bodily autonomy too. And you cannot tell me that if I don't do something, that I'm affecting you. That doesn't work that way. This is what affects me, not you. The only way that you affect me is if you come at me with a toxin or you cause to do me harm. Other than that, I will do me in the way that is right for me. You go ahead and do you, however you want. You can choose to take things or not to take things. But I do ask you, why are you not checking out resources? Why are you not researching before you take anything, before you expose yourself to toxins? I mean, every day we're exposing ourselves to toxins. It's in the food we eat, the water we drink, the air we breathe, even the soil we plant our crops in are all contaminated by some sort of poisons. We need to stop. We need to clean up the water. We need to clean up the air. We need to clean up the soil. We need to clean up the water. We need to stop dumping chemicals in our water supply. We need to stop poisoning our air with chemtrails. We need to stop poisoning the population with pharmaceuticals and biological weapons, because that's what they are, under this false pretense of public health. It needs to stop. Just stop. God made the human in his image and likeness, and we proceed to bugger it up all the time. I mean, it's crazy. And we allow these narcissistic pharmaceutical companies to think that they know better than God, and that, they can create something that is going to be better than God Almighty did. No. And the problem is that we've been dumbed down because of the food we eat, the water we drink, the pharmaceuticals we take, the educational system, which has basically dumbed us down where we have no more creative thinking. And it's only the rare exception of the people who have critical thinking skills and apply them on a daily basis. And how we get to the point where we trust billionaires to tell us what to do. Having money doesn't make you smart. Having money makes you rich. That's all it does. And maybe you're powerful in your own area, but that shouldn't make you powerful everywhere. It shouldn't give you the right to tell other people what to do. Maybe tell your employees what to do, and if they don't like it, they can obviously leave. But I really think we need to stop focusing on, well, this person is so powerful because they have so much money. No, they have money and they think they're powerful, so they try to use that influence. And obviously with Trump pairing up with these billionaires, they think maybe they're onto something. And again, if it's psyop, fantastic, we'll get through it. But if it's not a psyop, I'm worried about this AI, because it can be manipulated. Again, you can put bad data in and get bad data out. And I don't mean just bad in the sense that it's not right, but bad that it can harm you. That you get something from this algorithm or, whatever prompts you put in, and it comes out and it says, oh, you have this, and now you've got to go take that. Well, no. God gave us everything. It is in, it is in nature. It is in ourselves. I mean, he gave us herbs and oils and all these things that we can use. We don't need pharmaceuticals. And I'm not saying we don't need medicine, because we need acute care medicine. You cut off your hand. Yes, you want to go to the emergency room, have it sewn back on. But we don't need chronic care medicine. We don't need to go through, cancer treatments. I mean, just horrible, horrible things that they do to the body with cancer treatments. And with the cancer cures, and I'm going to use the word cures loosely. I'm not saying everything that the people have come up with cures cancer, but does help either put in remission or remove the danger of dying from cancer. Things like what Dr. Stanley Brzezinski has done. You look him up on the web. He's been, I think it's twice either, he's been arrested or something for what he uses to heal people. And that's the thing we have to remember. Why do they jail these people? because they go against the powerful pharmaceutical industry. That's the thing. If you're all powerful with all this money, then you have ways of buying everybody off. You've bought off probably everybody in Congress. You've probably bought off everybody in major industry so they follow what you do. You've bought off all the doctors, all the hospitals. So we fall in line and we get the care that is determined from the powerful oligarchs, because there are oligarchs who run the pharmaceutical industry too. So we need to stop doing that. We need to stop looking for these cures or treatments outside ourselves. And especially with that dreaded disease, the C word, people get fear-mongered just hearing that word. It just means you have a mutation of cells. And find the one treatment that's going to work. Stop looking for somebody else to give you something to take it away. Start looking at fixing yourself, eating right, getting rid of toxins. Stop putting stuff in and on your body that's going to cause you to mutate cells. It's time to be sovereign in your own body. That's what I say, bodily autonomy. So again, I really feel passionate about this. The last thing I want to see is the rise of AI in public health care. I just don't want to see it. I want to see individuals taking control of their lives, taking control of their health. We become a sovereign nation of people who are the healthiest they can be because they have looked for the right things that work for them, and they have taken the time to do their research or find people who assist them that know the ways that the body works, that the true way, the true healing way that God has made for us. We are perfect in his image and likeness. We're the ones that bugger it up, or we let somebody else do it for us. Please take care of yourself. Please try your best to always seek the truth, to remain sovereign, to protect your bodily autonomy, and care for one another. Until next time, God bless.